I have to apologize, I've been so busy with this build, I haven't been able to put together a video. And I'm also learning pretty quickly that van parts are not cheap. I've been saving my change for I don't know how long, and I finally went over to the bank and cashed them all in. In this video, we're going to put on seat swivels, running boards, and do the framing. Before you can put the swivels in, you have to make sure you unplug the battery. Surprisingly, there are only 6 bolts holding the seat in place. Originally, we tried to use some seat swivels from Amazon, but they did not work. I would have had to cut away this piece to get them to fit in place. So learn from our mistake and go with the Scopema brand seat swivels and don't use the ones from Amazon. They aren't cheap, but they're worth every penny. I wish I was sponsored by them, but I had to pay full price like everyone else. As I mentioned, make sure that you disconnect your battery, and then we're going to disconnect the electrical on this. If you don't disconnect the battery, when you disconnect these, I've heard you can have some problems with your airbags. You have to go back to the dealer, so it's one little clip. Undo the battery terminal and then go ahead and undo these clips. To undo these, you just pull it out, wiggle it back and forth, you'll see a clip here. You pull the purple apart and then unclip it. Again, pull the purple down, unclip. In addition to those two, there is a small one here, and you'll take that apart as well. Now I have my 3 pieces all loose. I'm going to put them up here on the back of the seat. Let's go ahead and unbox this. We bought it from Euro Camper. Great deal. Got here real quick. Highly recommend. So you can see that we've got the Scopema seat on here. You want to make sure that you have the side with the little on top and then the flat side at the bottom. And you can see the holes line up perfectly. This thing's going to go very quick. In order to access all of the bolt holes, you will have to move the seat forward or backward or swivel it. When installing the seat, there are 6 bolts that go into the seat and 6 bolts that go into the base. At first, just get them all finger tight until they are all in, and then tighten them down. After you're done attaching the seat, go back and clip in all of the power supplies. Just make sure you remember there are 3 for each seat. That little one is easy to forget about. Well, they work. It was a bit of a job because, like I said, we tried to get the ones from Amazon. They didn't work. These ones from Scopema, awesome. I can't recommend them enough. I'm not sponsored by them, but I definitely love these. Today is about making our van easier to get in and out of. So we bought some running boards from Amazon. These are called I-boards. They are very easy to install. I think you only need to drill like 6 holes, but the rest of it goes with the factory holes. So we're going to put them together inside and then go outside and install them. So the first thing you find when you open the box is the instructions and cat treats, apparently, because our cat really wants to help out. We've got the running board pieces. We've got all the brackets, the nuts and bolts, everything except for someone to help you do this. So they did come with instructions, and like any well-respected man, don't need those, we'll figure this out. All of the parts are well labeled, and it's very intuitive on how to put it together. The passenger side running board comes in 2 pieces. You have to attach them together with the nuts and bolts provided. Then it's time to get dirty and go outside. Okay, I've got the pieces temporarily put together. This one will go here, and this one will go in here. First, we have to remove the small plug. See if I can do this one-handed. Next, make sure you have the washer on there, and you're going to insert this into there. The washer is meant to hold it so that it doesn't fall inside like my plug did. Next, we put our lock washer and our nut on, and they say don't tighten it down all the way to begin with. Okay, we're going to do the rear bracket. We have to remove this plug here. So now we have our washer, our lock washer, and our nut. We're going to finger tighten it down. So now you can see that they are on. The next thing will be to move this up and drill a small hole for it right there. So you want to mark it right in the center and then drill your hole. Anytime you drill into the metal of the van, you want to make sure that you coat it with a layer of paint. Now that the holes have dried, we're going to go ahead and put everything back together. You'll want to attach it with the provided nut, bolt, and lock washer. And then next you attach the running boards to the brackets. By doing the driver's side first, it helps build your confidence, so then you're ready to go over to the long passenger side and attach the running board there. It is the same exact process, you just have to repeat it 4 times instead of 2. Okay, we've got all those brackets in. They've been lightly tightened down until we got all of them in along the bottom. And now we're going to go and tighten them down. These eye-boards were really easy to install, they look great, and they make it much easier to get inside the van. We have gotten our preliminary design down. We're going to have a shower here. There will be a cabinet here. It'll be a little bit smaller where the microwave will go up here and the refrigerator will go here. And then we're going to have a drawer and a hidden toilet that can slide into the shower. Now that we have our preliminary design down, it's time to start framing the roof and walls. So we have to rip out our furring strips. For this, we used 1/2-inch Baltic birch plywood. Okay, we are going to cut the roof pieces first. They have to be 55 inches long. I've gone ahead and set up a little stop block so that I can do all 6 of them the same length. I just screwed my miter saw down, and that way all 6 will be exactly the same, and clamped down an end board. Our first job is going to be putting in some furring strips across the top. Online, I found there were several different ways to do this. In the end, I chose to use the 1 7/16 inch self-tapping screws. They're for wood to metal. In addition to the screws, I used construction adhesive on each of the pieces. As I was going through this process, I did learn something, and I'll explain it to you in just a minute. Good. Well, we got the major ones in, and we still have the very front one and the back one to do, but I have to say that was very nerve-wracking. I can see why some people will go ahead and put the thin slit on after they've done the furring, because you really have to pay attention to where the valleys and the peaks are, because if you go into a valley, I think my screws might have gone through. But since I went to where the peaks are and marked them all out, you can't really see it, but so that I would know exactly where I could put them. Also, you want to make sure that you are looking for where there's already holes in the roof so that you don't drill into those, because it won't catch. I've gone ahead and pre-cut all of my frame pieces. They're just sitting in place. It is a bit chilly out, so I brought the Craig jig in and my drills and everything. So we're just going to go ahead and start attaching them all with the Craig screws and wood glue, and let's get this going. If you're not familiar with what a Craig jig is, it's used to make pocket holes to screw together pieces of wood. It's one of the most common ways you'll be attaching wood together when building a van. As they say, drill, drive, and done. You'll want to add glue as well. We've gotten all of those in. They're all glued and pocket screwed. Just have to do the bottom. We'll do that in a little bit, but first we'll finish off the other wall. For the next part of my framing, I'm going to be covering up this area right here with 2x6s that I've pre-cut to length, but I want to go ahead and put some thin slit behind those before I cover them up, because it'll be impossible to put the thin slit in after I put the wood on. You can see I've gotten the thin slit put in, and I'm ready to screw the boards in. What I've done is I've marked the areas so that I know where I can actually screw into and hit the metal, as opposed to screwing into the big open voids. We're out here for another day of van build. Back at it. As you remember, we just left you. We had finished up most of the framing. I still have to attach the bottom pieces at the bottom. I'm leaving this open for now until I figure out exactly what we're doing around this window, but I can come back and do that later. And then down here, I'm still figuring this part out. Again, we're putting in two beds, and so it'll be a U-shaped dinette, and so we really just got to figure out exactly where that's going to be. Can come back and fill that in later. And we still got this wall. I have to do these uppers here on this side, as well as the pieces that go in there. So let's get going. To attach the 2x6 pieces, I again used construction adhesive and the self-tapping screws. One of the things I've noticed on a lot of van builds is they remove these factory door lights that come on when you open your doors. There's one here and one in the back, and I think I want to keep these. There's no use wiring in something to turn on so I can get into my van. These things provide enough light to get me in the van and where I need to go, so I can turn on the overhead lights. At least that's my plan. We'll see if that works, but I do plan to try and move them to a different spot. May end up painting them if I need to, but I think that color actually goes well with the white that we're doing inside. So I think they just pop out, if I'm not mistaken. Might need to pry them out a little bit, but like I said, I think that they just come right out pretty easy. So, and it looks like there's a connection here. I'm gonna try and move it down, maybe somewhere else, or I might just, we're going to have a cabinet here. Maybe I'll just have it come and enter into that cabinet. So I'll do the same thing up on that one. Well, through a little bit of trial and error, I found out that the angle here is 30 degrees. I want to make it have that angle on the pieces of wood because I want them to be able to lock into here, and that way when I screw, the glue will also provide fastening to it, making it a much stronger joint than if I were to just take it straight and buddy up against that. There'd be a big gap in the back and nowhere for the glue to go. So we're going to go ahead. I've already started pre-cutting some with the angle on them. Now I just got to cut them all to length and install them. The top pieces are all in on that wall. Now we're getting ready to do the attachment for the bottoms on both sides. So we have those and these. And what I'm going to do is use the same metal screws, and I'm also going to use some of the adhesive, construction adhesive. Well, I do feel this is a pretty strong I can shake the whole van with it, so I don't think my cabinets that will be attached to all of this will go anywhere. For the bottom pieces, I did use 2 screws in each one. Next, we're going to start working on our subfloor. For this, again, I'm using 1/2-inch Baltic birch plywood. I was pretty fortunate when I bought my van. It came with a rubber mat, which was the exact size that I needed for my subfloor. So I was able to use this as a template for my floor. I just had to trace around the edges. This probably saved me hours of having to make my own template. Then I used my jigsaw to cut out the shape. Well, I got the front 2 in, and they line up very nicely, almost like I had a pattern. I didn't remove the floor tie downs yet, just because I am going to be putting some insulation under this, but I'm just test fitting everything. And I also know that the edges kind of curve upward, so I know that's going to go away once I put down the 1/2-inch furring strips on the ground and the insulation. But looking pretty good. So when you're doing plywood cuts, sometimes what I like to do, if I remember, is to put a piece of plywood on either side and clamp it down, and that way when you get to the other side, this end doesn't just fall off. It actually will stay up and you're having to hold less of the plywood in your hands. Like a glove. My wife was so excited to have this in that she had me break out the laminate flooring to do a test section. I must say, this van project is so much fun, and I hope you're enjoying watching it as much as I am doing it. If you are enjoying this video, please hit like and subscribe, and leave me a comment